The flickering candlelight cast long, dancing shadows across the dusty walls of Aarav's secluded cottage, each flicker a painful reminder of the light that had been extinguished from his life 5 years ago. Maya. Her name was a whisper he carried in the hollow chambers of his heart, a constant ache that time had failed to dull. The air in the small room was thick with the scent of old books and unspoken grief, a familiar comfort in its melancholic embrace. Aarav, a young man barely touched by the world beyond his self-imposed exile, lived a life steeped in the past. His days were a monotonous cycle of tending to his small garden, reading the dog-eared letters Maya had penned, and staring at the single photograph that held her radiant smile frozen in time. Her disappearance had been sudden, inexplicable. One moment she was there, laughing under the monsoon sky, and the next, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a chilling void and Aarav's shattered world. The local police had closed the case, labeling it an unsolved mystery, but Aarav knew, deep in his bones, that something far more sinister was at play. Tonight, however, felt different. A storm raged outside, mirroring the tempest within him. The wind howled like a tormented spirit, rattling the windows and clawing at the thatched roof. A sudden sharp crack of lightning illuminated the room, and in that fleeting brilliance, Aarav saw it. A small wooden box lying on his worn-out desk. He didn't remember placing it there. It was old, the wood dark and intricately carved with symbols he didn't recognize. A cold dread seeped into him, a feeling that this unassuming box held a key to the mystery that had consumed his existence. Hesitantly, he reached for it, his fingers trembling. The wood felt strangely cold, almost alive. As his thumb brushed against one of the carvings, a faint whisper echoed in the room, a voice that sounded achingly familiar yet distant, like a half-forgotten dream. Aarav, his breath hitched. It couldn't be. Maya's voice? After all these years? He dismissed it as a trick of the storm, a cruel figment of his grief-stricken mind. But the whisper lingered, a haunting melody that tugged at the deepest recesses of his soul. Driven by a desperate hope and a gnawing fear, Aarav carefully lifted the lid of the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a single dried crimson flower, a Krishna Kamal, Maya's favorite. Beneath it was a folded piece of parchment. His heart pounded against his ribs as he unfolded it, his eyes scanning the elegant script. Where the shadows dance and the old stones weep, the truth lies buried deep. Seek the serpent's eye when the moon bleeds light. The words were cryptic, unsettling. The serpent's eye, the moon bleeds light. What could it mean? A shiver ran down his spine. This wasn't just a message. It felt like a breadcrumb, a clue left behind in the darkness. But by whom? And why now, after all this time? The storm outside intensified, the wind howling like a banshee. Aarav clutched the parchment, his mind racing. The old stones. He knew of a dilapidated ancient temple on the outskirts of the village, a place shrouded in local legends and whispered tales of forgotten rituals. Could that be it? Fear warred with a desperate longing for answers. He hadn't left his cottage in years, the outside world a painful reminder of his loss. But Maya's message, if it truly was hers, offered a sliver of hope, a chance to finally unravel the mystery that had stolen her away. He rose, his legs stiff from disuse. The candlelight flickered, casting his gaunt shadow on the wall. He looked at Maya's photograph, her smiling eyes seeming to urge him on. He had to know. He owed it to her. Donning his worn-out shawl, Aarav stepped out into the raging storm. The wind and rain lashed at him as if trying to deter him, but his resolve was firm. He ventured out into the night, the cryptic message his only guide, the image of Maya's face his only beacon. The path to the old temple was treacherous, the darkness punctuated only by the flashes of lightning that illuminated the gnarled trees and muddy terrain. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent a jolt of fear through him. The legends surrounding the temple spoke of malevolent spirits and dark secrets, tales he had always dismissed as folklore. But tonight, with the storm raging and the cryptic message echoing in his mind, they felt disturbingly real. As he finally reached the temple, perched precariously on a small hill overlooking the village, a sense of foreboding washed over him. The ancient stones were slick with rain, their weathered surfaces etched with strange, unsettling carvings. The air hung heavy with a damp, earthy smell and something else, something metallic and faintly sweet, like decaying flowers. The moon, partially obscured by the storm clouds, occasionally peeked through, casting an eerie, blood-red glow. the moon bleeds light. Aarav's heart pounded in his chest. The serpent's eye, he scanned the temple ruins, his eyes darting from one crumbling structure to another. Then he saw it. Carved into the lintel of what appeared to be the main entrance was a depiction of a serpent coiled around a single, large obsidian stone, its eye. As the blood-red moonlight fell upon it, the obsidian seemed to gleam with an unnatural intensity. A cold wave of dread washed over Aarav. This was it, the place the message had guided him to. But what awaited him inside? With hesitant steps, he approached the entrance. The heavy stone door was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning him into the unknown. He pushed it open, the ancient stone groaning in protest, the sound swallowed by the roar of the storm. The interior of the temple was even more unsettling than the outside. The air was thick, with the same cloying scent he had noticed earlier, now stronger, almost suffocating. Strange symbols were painted on the walls, their faded colors hinting at forgotten rituals. In the center of the chamber, a stone altar stood stained with what looked like dried blood. Aarav's breath caught in his throat. A primal fear gripped him, telling him to turn back, to flee into the storm. But the desperate yearning for Maya, for the truth, kept him rooted to the spot. Suddenly, a low moan echoed from the shadows at the far end of the chamber. It was a sound of pure agony, laced with a chilling familiarity. Aarav's blood ran cold. He knew that sound. He had heard it in his nightmares, a phantom echo of Maya's last moments. He took a step forward, his heart pounding in his ears. "Maya?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Another moan. Closer this time. He moved deeper into the shadows, his eyes straining to pierce the darkness. And then he saw it. A figure lay huddled on the floor, bound and gagged. Long dark hair cascaded around the pale face. Even in the dim light, Aarav recognized the delicate features, the curve of her lips, the faint scar above her eyebrow. "Maya!" he cried, rushing towards her. But as he reached her, a figure emerged from the deeper shadows, tall and gaunt, his face obscured by a dark hood. He held a gleaming, ritualistic dagger in his hand, its blade catching the faint light. "So, the grieving lover finally arrives," the hooded figure hissed, his voice a raspy whisper that seemed to slither through the air. "You are just in time for the final offering." Aarav froze, his blood turning to ice. This was no ordinary disappearance. Maya had been held captive, a sacrifice in some dark, forgotten ritual. "Who are you?" Aarav demanded, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and rage. "What have you done to her?" The hooded figure chuckled, a dry, chilling sound. "I am the keeper of the old ways, the one who ensures the balance is maintained." "And your beloved Maya?" "She was chosen." He raised the dagger, its sharp point glinting menacingly in the dim light. Aarav lunged forward, a primal scream tearing from his throat. But the hooded figure was swift, sidestepping his desperate attack. A struggle ensued, a desperate dance between a grief-stricken lover and a sinister cultist in the heart of a forgotten temple. Aarav, fueled by adrenaline and a fierce love, fought with a strength he didn't know he possessed. But the hooded figure was agile and skilled, his movements imbued with a chillingly calm purpose. Just as the dagger was about to plunge towards Maya, a blinding light filled the chamber. A deafening roar echoed through the temple, shaking the very foundations. The hooded figure staggered back, his eyes wide with terror. Standing in the doorway, bathed in an ethereal glow, was a figure unlike any Aarav had ever seen. Tall and radiant, with eyes that shone like distant stars, it exuded an aura of immense power and serene calm. The storm outside seemed to subside, the wind dying down to a gentle whisper. The blood-red moonlight that had bathed the temple vanished, replaced by a soft, silvery luminescence emanating from the figure in the doorway. The hooded figure, his bravado completely gone, fell to his knees, whimpering in fear. "The Guardian, it cannot be!" The radiant figure raised a hand, and a beam of pure light shot forth, striking the hooded figure. He dissolved into dust, his ritualistic dagger clattering to the stone floor. Silence descended upon the temple, broken only by Aarav's ragged breathing. He stared at the radiant figure, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was witnessing. The figure turned its gaze towards Maya, its eyes filled with a gentle compassion. It approached her, and as its hand hovered over her bound form, the ropes fell away, and the gag disappeared. Maya gasped, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at Aarav, her face pale and tear-streaked, but her eyes filled with a dawning recognition. "Aarav?" "Maya," He rushed to her, pulling her into a tight embrace. The feel of her in his arms, the warmth of her breath against his neck, was a miracle he had long since given up on. He looked back at the radiant figure, his heart overflowing with gratitude and awe. What are you? The figure smiled, a gentle, luminous expression. I am the protector of this place, the guardian of the balance. The darkness that held your beloved captive has been vanquished. Its gaze then turned towards Aarav, its eyes piercing yet kind. Your love, your unwavering devotion called. It shattered the veil that separated worlds. Aarav looked at Maya, tears streaming down his face. He had found her. Against all odds, against the chilling darkness that had enveloped her, she was alive. The radiant figure then spoke again, its voice a melodious whisper that seemed to resonate within their very souls. The path ahead will not be without its shadows, but remember the strength of your bond. It is a light that even the deepest darkness cannot extinguish. With a final, serene smile, the radiant figure began to fade, its light slowly dissipating until it was gone, leaving behind only the soft glow of the moon filtering through the temple ruins. Aarav held Maya close, his heart swelling with a joy he had thought he would never feel again. The nightmare was over. The miracle had happened. As they emerged from the temple, hand in hand, the first rays of dawn painted the sky with hues of hope and renewal. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean. Aarav looked at Maya, her eyes reflecting the sunrise, and knew that their journey was far from over. They had faced the darkness and emerged into the light, their love a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The warmth of the rising sun on their faces was a stark contrast to the chilling darkness they had just escaped. Aarav held Maya's hand tightly, a silent promise that he would never let her go again. Her touch, once a phantom memory, was now a tangible reality, a miracle he still struggled to fully comprehend. As they walked away from the ancient temple, a sense of peace settled over them, a fragile calm after the storm. The birds began to sing, their melodies filling the air with a renewed sense of life. The village, nestled in the valley below, slowly stirred awake, oblivious to the terrifying events that had unfolded on the hill above. But as they reached the familiar path leading back to Aarav's cottage, Maya stopped, her gaze fixed on something behind them. Aarav turned to see what had caught her attention. It was the temple, now bathed in the soft, golden light of dawn. And there, etched faintly on the stone doorway, was a symbol, a spiraling serpent devouring its own tail. A cold shiver ran down Aarav's spine. He recognized it. It was the same symbol that had been carved on the wooden box. The box that had mysteriously appeared in his cottage. The box that had led him to Maya. What does it mean? Maya whispered, her voice laced with a renewed unease. Aarav shook his head, his mind racing. He had seen that symbol before, not just on the box, but in one of Maya's old sketchbooks, alongside strange notes written in a language he didn't understand. I don't know, he admitted, his gaze fixed on the unsettling image. But I have a feeling it's not over. Back in the familiar confines of his cottage, the sense of relief was palpable, yet tinged with a lingering unease. Maya sat by the window, her eyes scanning the tranquil landscape, a stark contrast to the horror she had endured. Aarav retrieved Maya's old sketchbook from a dusty shelf. Its pages were filled with intricate drawings of flora and fauna, interspersed with cryptic symbols and handwritten notes in an elegant, flowing script. As he flipped through the pages, the spiraling serpent symbol appeared again and again, often accompanied by depictions of the Krishna Kamal flower and celestial charts. One particular page caught his eye. It contained a detailed drawing of the temple entrance, with the serpent-devouring tail symbol prominently displayed, along with a series of dates written in a circular pattern. One of the dates was today's date. A cold dread washed over Aarav. Maya had been researching the temple, the symbols, perhaps even the cult. But why? What had drawn her to such a dangerous path? Maya, he said softly, showing her the sketchbook. Did you draw these? Maya leaned closer, her brow furrowed in concentration. Yes, I remember. Before I disappeared. I was fascinated by the local legends surrounding the old temple. There were whispers of ancient rituals, of a cult that worshipped a serpent god. I found these symbols carved on some of the older stones in the village. But why didn't you tell me? Aarav asked, his voice filled with concern. A shadow crossed Maya's face. I didn't want to worry you. Some of the stories were quite disturbing, and I didn't have any concrete evidence, just a feeling that there was something more to it all. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Aarav tensed, He hadn't had a visitor in years. Who could it be? He cautiously opened the door to find a young woman standing on his doorstep. She looked pale and distraught, clutching a worn, leather-bound book. "Please," she stammered, her voice trembling. "You're Aarav, aren't you? Maya told me if anything happened to her, I should come to you. She said you would understand." Aarav and Maya exchanged bewildered glances. "Understand what?" Aarav asked, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The young woman took a shaky breath. "Maya, she was investigating the cult. She discovered their secret. They believe that the Krishna Kamal flower blooms only when a sacrifice is made to their serpent god, ensuring the village's prosperity. They chose Maya for the ritual." Aarav felt a wave of nausea wash over him. The beautiful flower Maya loved, the flower that had been in the wooden box. It was tied to this horrific ritual. The young woman opened the leather-bound book, revealing pages filled with the same symbols and script from Maya's sketchbook, along with detailed descriptions of the cult's practices and prophecies. "Maya found this hidden in the village archives," the young woman explained. "It's a chronicle of the cult's history. She learned that the sacrifices aren't just about prosperity. They believe that every few decades, a celestial alignment occurs, and during that time, a pure soul sacrificed at the temple can open a gateway to immense power." The celestial alignment. Aarav remembered the circular pattern of dates in Maya's sketchbook. Today's date had been at the center, the guardian, Maya whispered, her eyes wide with realization. "It appeared when the sacrifice was interrupted. Perhaps it protects the gateway, but the cult won't give up," the young woman said, her voice filled with urgency. "They've been waiting for this alignment for generations. They will try again." Just then, a chilling chant echoed from the distance, carried on the wind. It was the sound of multiple voices, growing louder, closer. Aarav rushed to the window. A group of hooded figures, their faces obscured by shadows, were making their way towards his cottage, their eyes burning with fanaticism. They carried torches, their flames casting an eerie glow in the daylight. "They've come for Maya," Aarav said, his voice grim. "We have to get out of here," Maya urged, her eyes filled with fear. But Aarav stood his ground. He had lost Maya once. He wouldn't lose her again. He looked at the sketchbook, at the symbols that had once been a mystery, but now held a terrifying significance. He thought of the radiant guardian, the power it had exuded. "No," Aarav said, a newfound resolve hardening his gaze. "We won't run. We'll face them. Together." He turned to the young woman. "Do you know the layout of the temple? Are there any secret passages? Any way to reach the inner sanctum?" The young woman nodded, her fear replaced by a flicker of determination. "Maya found a hidden tunnel, leading from the base of the hill directly to the altar." "Then that's our path," Aarav declared. "Maya, you and I will go through the tunnel. Our friend here will create a diversion, draw their attention away from the cottage." A plan began to form in Arav's mind, a desperate gamble against a centuries-old cult and their dark rituals. He knew the odds were stacked against them, but the miracle of Maya's return had ignited a spark of hope within him. He would fight for her, for their future, even if it meant facing the darkness once more. As the cultist chants grew louder, Aarav took Maya's hand, his grip firm. He looked into her eyes, seeing not fear, but a reflection of his own determination. "We will get through this," he vowed. "We will break their hold on this village, on our lives." Together they slipped out the back of the cottage, the young woman bravely stepping out to confront the approaching cultists, her voice raised in a desperate plea, drawing their attention. Aarav and Maya raced towards the base of the hill, the spiraling serpent symbol on the temple looming large in their minds, a chilling reminder of the darkness they were about to face. The fight for their miracle had just begun. The air in the hidden tunnel was damp and heavy, with the scent of mildew and ancient earth. Aarav and Maya moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the narrow passage. The chanting of the cultists grew fainter as they descended deeper into the darkness, the flickering torchlight casting eerie shadows on the rough-hewn walls. "Are you all right?" Aarav whispered, his hand never leaving Maya's. She nodded, her face pale but resolute. "As long as I'm with you." The tunnel opened into a small, cavernous space behind the altar. The inner sanctum of the temple was dimly lit by a few flickering oil lamps, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls adorned with grotesque carvings of serpents and strange deities. The air here was thick with the cloying, sweet scent Aarav had noticed before, now overpowering. The cultists were gathered before the altar, their hooded figures swaying rhythmically as they chanted in a guttural language. At the center of the altar lay a bed of withered Krishna Kamal flowers, and above it, carved into the stone, was a larger, more intricate version of the spiraling serpent symbol. They hadn't seen Aarav and Maya yet. "We need to find a way to stop them," Aarav murmured, his eyes scanning the chamber for any sign of the Guardian. Suddenly, the chanting intensified. The cult leader, a tall, imposing figure with a mask adorned with serpent scales, raised a gleaming obsidian dagger. "The alignment is near," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The gateway will open. The serpent god demands his due." Aarav's blood ran cold. They were about to perform another sacrifice. He had to act fast. He spotted a loose pile of stones near the tunnel entrance. "I'll create a diversion," he whispered to Maya. "When they're distracted, try to reach the altar, disrupt the ritual." Maya nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. Aarav hurled the stones into the main chamber, the clatter echoing loudly and breaking the cultists' hypnotic chant. They turned, their masked faces contorted in anger and surprise. "Intruders!" the cult leader roared. In the chaos that followed, Aarav lunged into the chamber, drawing the attention of several cultists. Maya, seizing the opportunity, darted towards the altar. But the cult leader was quick to react. He shoved aside the cultists surrounding Aarav and moved swiftly towards Maya, his obsidian dagger raised. "You will not interfere," he hissed. Just as the dagger was about to strike Maya, the ground began to tremble. The oil lamps flickered violently, and the grotesque carvings on the walls seemed to writhe. A low, guttural growl echoed through the chamber, a sound that was not human. Fear gripped the cultists. They stumbled back, their chanting dying down to terrified whispers. From the shadows behind the altar, a colossal serpent emerged. Its scales shimmered like polished obsidian, and its eyes glowed with an eerie, malevolent green light. It was far larger and more terrifying than any serpent Aarav had ever imagined, a creature of nightmare made real. The cult leader fell to his knees, his masked face pale with terror. The serpent god, he has awakened. But the serpent did not turn to him. Its gaze, cold and ancient, was fixed on the spiraling symbol above the altar. It hissed, a deafening sound that seemed to vibrate the very air, and then struck the stone with its massive head. The symbol shattered. A blinding light erupted from the altar, even more intense than the light of the Guardian. The chamber shook violently, and the air crackled with energy. The cultists screamed, their bodies writhing in agony as the light enveloped them. Aarav shielded Maya with his body, bracing himself for the impact. But the light, though intense, felt strangely pure. It washed over them, not with pain, but with a sense of profound cleansing. When the light subsided, the colossal serpent was gone. The cultists lay still on the floor, their hooded figures now empty shells. The grotesque carvings on the walls had faded, replaced by smooth, unblemished stone. The cloying scent in the air had vanished, replaced by a fresh, clean breeze that seemed to flow from the shattered symbol above the altar. And then, the Guardian appeared again, bathed in the soft, ethereal glow. It stood before the altar, its radiant eyes fixed on the shattered symbol. "The balance has been restored," its melodious voice echoed through the silent chamber. "The ancient pact is broken. The serpent god's reign of terror is over." Aarav looked around, his mind reeling from the unbelievable events he had just witnessed. The monstrous serpent, the cultists, all gone. What happened?" he stammered. The Guardian turned its gentle gaze towards them. The serpent god was not a deity to be worshipped, but a force of darkness that fed on fear and sacrifice. The cult, in their misguided devotion, only strengthened its hold on this land. "But why did it awaken now?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. The celestial alignment amplified its power, bringing it closer to fully opening the gateway, the Guardian explained. "Your love, your courage, disrupted the ritual, weakening its hold, and the shattering of the symbol. It was the key to severing its connection to this realm." The Guardian then approached the altar and placed its hand on the shattered symbol. A soft golden light emanated from its touch, and the broken pieces began to glow, slowly mending themselves. As the symbol healed, a feeling of peace and tranquility filled the chamber. "This place will be cleansed," the Guardian said. The darkness that lingered here for centuries is finally gone. Its gaze then turned to Aarav and Maya, a gentle smile gracing its lips. "Your ordeal is over. The miracle of your reunion was not just chance. It was the spark that ignited the change. With a final nod, the Guardian began to fade once more, its light receding, until it disappeared completely. Aarav and Maya stood in the silence, holding each other close, the weight of the past lifted from their shoulders. The temple, once a place of fear and darkness, now felt strangely peaceful, bathed in the soft light filtering through the cracks in the ceiling. They emerged from the temple as the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the valley. The village below seemed to hum with a newfound lightness, an unspoken sense of relief. The young woman who had helped them was waiting near the tunnel entrance, her face etched with worry that quickly turned to relief as she saw them. "You're safe," she exclaimed, rushing towards them. What happened in there? Aarav and Maya exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. They knew they could never fully explain the horrors they had faced and the miracle they had witnessed. "It's over," Aarav said simply. "The darkness is gone." Life in the village slowly began to return to normal, but something had shifted. The fear that had lingered for generations, the whispers of the Serpent god, had vanished. The Krishna Kamal flowers bloomed in abundance, their vibrant crimson a symbol not of sacrifice, but of life and hope. Aarav and Maya rebuilt their lives together, their bond strengthened by the trials they had overcome. The memory of the Guardian and the colossal serpent remained a secret they shared, a testament to the extraordinary events that had brought them back together. Years passed. The old temple on the hill slowly crumbled further, reclaimed by nature. The spiraling serpent symbol faded from memory, becoming just another forgotten legend. But for Aarav and Maya, the miracle of their reunion, the battle against the darkness, and the ethereal light of the Guardian remained a vivid reminder of the power of love and courage in the face of unimaginable horror. Their story, though never fully told, lived on in the quiet joy they found in each other's presence, a viral whisper of hope in a world often shrouded in darkness.